Here to discuss is cybersecurity expert Michael Mabee, based here in Texas and specializes in security for the United States electric grid. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks a lot for having me. Great honor.
Well, the Texas Tribune story says that hackers have been probing for weak spots in digital systems. How are they doing this, and what exactly are they looking for?
Well, actually, we know from congressional hearings that the Russians and the Chinese, state actors such as the Russians and the Chinese, have actually been penetrating the U.S. electric grid since at least 2003. And we also know that the Russians particularly blacked out the Ukraine power grid in both 2015 and 2016 in cyber attacks. And then finally, Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm last June acknowledged that state adversaries such as Russia and China have the ability to shut off the U.S. electric grid through a cyber attack. So this is presently an issue of very, very high concern.
Would this be similar to what happened last year when Russian hackers were able to essentially shut down that Colonial Pipeline company for several days? Is that the kind of thing we're talking about here?
Yeah, that's one example. That particular cyber attack was a ransomware attack, so that's one type. There are also cyber attacks such as the Stuxnet attack, which can actually damage equipment. And part of the problem in the United States is there are over 3,000 different entities, both public and private sector, that are part of the electric grid. So that's 3,000 barn doors that have to be guarded.
You alluded to this, and one energy CEO told the Tribune, in fact, they're on super high alert. What kind of precautions can energy companies take when there's a threat like we're seeing here?
Well, there are a lot of precautions that companies can take, but one thing that people need to know is that there are no cybersecurity requirements that apply to the entire U.S. electric grid. There are some requirements that apply just to part of it, the bulk power system. But generally speaking, companies have to voluntarily protect their piece of the electric grid by taking prudent cybersecurity measures. There is no requirement that they do so. And that renders us very, very vulnerable to a cyber attack by either a criminal, a terrorist organization, or a state actor such as Russia, China, North Korea, or Iran.
We've seen we're here in Texas, of course, we've seen the state power grid go through problems over the last couple of years. Here in Texas, is that a big problem? Do you think our power grid could withstand a significant cyber attack?
I do not. And in Texas in particular, according to U.S. Department of Energy information, 71% of the electric disturbance events were due to weather, which one might expect. But 3% of them, of the electric disturbance events, were due to cyber attack, and 22% were due to physical attack. So in Texas, our power grid is very, very vulnerable both to man-made hazards as well as Mother Nature.
All right, final question. How concerned should Texans hearing this be with the potential threat for a cyber attack, maybe state, maybe national?
Everybody should be very, very concerned because the electric grid is necessary for all 16 critical infrastructures in the United States. So without the electric grid, there's no food, there's no water, there's no medical system, there's no emergency services, there's no communications, no transportation. All of the 16 critical infrastructures in the United States depend on the electric grid. So this is a vital infrastructure that everybody needs to be concerned about the security of.
Cybersecurity expert Michael Mabee, thank you so much for your time joining us here on KVUE this afternoon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.